U.S. bankruptcies surge past 2020 pandemic levels. Oh boy. There's a real rebalancing that feels like it's happening in many different areas of life right now. I'm like, of the world, of America, of life right now. That's what it feels like, right? 71 large U.S. companies went bankrupt in July, the highest monthly total since the 2020 pandemic. This follows 66 and 64 filings in June and May, respectively. Year to date, there have been 446 large bankruptcies, the most in 15 years. What is this saying? This is already higher than the full year totals for 2021, 2022. Industrial and consumer discretionary companies have led the surge. Pace of bankruptcies is accelerating. Well-known companies that have gone bankrupt in 2025. Notice how many would be found in or around a mall. Oh, yeah. Nearly all of them. 23andMe, Billabong, DC Shoes, Forever 21, Claire's, Quicksilver, Roxy, RVCA, Volcom. Wow. This is a whole other chart right here. This is another video. This chart is a whole other video. Is this the end game of too many years of near zero interest rates producing zombie corporations which are now finally dropping dead? No, because a lot of these companies were started well before that, right? Billabong, DC, like these companies were not made within the past few years. So no, I would say no. This is a big question about it. But even still, like AI isn't making shoes and shirts and apparel and things like that. I don't see AI being the reason that this is happening for these companies, but I see that it could be an issue for other companies and just moving forward in general, for sure. Seems like we're already on the train to dystopia. Maybe the wave of major bankruptcies, mass layoffs, and job wipeouts is just the beginning. The storm isn't coming, it's here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's me right now. Capitalism's creative destruction in full force, adapt or perish. Creative destruction. I mean, I don't know why you need to throw that it's capitalism and that's like a given, right? I don't know. It makes it seem as though it's a bad thing. This is the only correct answer. If you have any hope in life, which is really important to have, right? Tough times, but opportunities ahead. Change brings opportunity. One door closes, another door opens, right? This is just basic life stuff if you don't know. Here's a sector-wise breakdown of the companies which have filed for bankruptcy. Consumer discretionary amongst the top two indicates the reducing U.S. consumer spending. Continuously harped upon exiting this sector in U.S. Okay, that's for investing. So, right, this is the consumer pulling back. And I've talked about this. People are unsure. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of just kind of what's happening, a lot of resettling that's happening. What's happening? Let's pull back on our spending. Let's not go crazy spending on things right now. We're not going to take that trip. We're not going to buy this extra thing. We're spending too much at the pump. We're spending too much at the grocery store. We're spending too much on housing. Everything, inflation has just been whooping our ass for the past 3 years. Let's chill out with all this. So it makes sense that people are running out of money. People have run out of money. And I'm not saying everybody. Not everybody's in the same position. Some people do better when things are inflationary than others. Kind of depends, right? If you're in an inflationary cycle and you own a lot of assets, that's different than if you just have a wage job. Super different. This is an interesting take. Interest rates are too high. The cost of their existing debt is almost certainly the cause. It's probably definitely a factor. This is also a reason to not have debt or to have as little debt as possible or just good debt, right? Like if you have, a 3% mortgage or, just different things like that. I mean, some of these takes are just ridiculous. Don't over leverage and produce things people want. Easy to avoid bankruptcy. Several once popular 1990s and 2000s brands are going under. Forever 21, Joann's, Rite Aid, Party City, and most recently Claire's have all filed for bankruptcy in 2025, joining a growing list of struggling retailers. People are just doing a lot of this shopping online, and also it's just time. Forever 21 has been struggling forever, right? For like a long time, right? Not literally forever, but for at least 5-6 years, they've been struggling. I think before the pandemic, they were struggling. My wife modeled for them. That's how 7 years ago, I think. That's how, and they were struggling then. According to S&P Global, 71 U.S. companies filed for bankruptcy in July, highest since 2020 and up from 63 in June. Even with a strong stock market and 3% Q2 GDP growth, many companies cite high interest rates, weak demand, and rising costs. I mean, yeah, it's just that formula. The high interest rates are bad because if you have debt, weak demand, people aren't buying your products, so you can't keep up with your payroll or your debt pay down, right? Your debt costs, and rising costs in general. So how much it costs to produce your product. Domani Foods burdened with up to $10 billion in debt. See? I mean, that right there, that just tells you. More bankruptcies are expected as pressures from debt, tariffs, and inflation weigh on corporate balance sheets. It's all of these reasons. The high interest rates are bad if you hold debt. People are spending less, and your costs to produce your product are going up, depending on your product. Yeah, and again, some of these takes are bad, in my opinion. Flushing out all the stimmy-based companies. These are not stimulus. This had nothing to do with any of that. These companies are way older than 5 years old. We'll see what happens. But I think that this right here says it all. This is the entire reason. High interest rates, weak demand, rising costs. This means that these companies need to pull back. And it's not just these companies. These are just the companies that have went bankrupt. You can bet that there's a ton more companies that are just skating by, that are hanging on by the skin of their teeth, that are weaker and in lesser positions than they were a few years ago, and they're going to be pulling back. That means job cuts, right? More layoffs, more job cuts. That could also mean, I want to say it could mean lower product pricing just to move product, right? Because if you have weak demand, right? Supply and demand, if you have weak demand, something's got to give. Prices got to come down to meet demand, right? To find where the demand is. So if you're selling something for $5, just as an example, and no one's buying it, where do you find buyers? At $3? If you put it for sale at $3, then all of a sudden people just start buying, then that's what you got to do. It's no different than what's happening with the housing prices right now. You got to come down to meet buyers. If you must sell, if you need to sell right now, these companies need to, that's part of having a company. Right? If you're selling a product, a widget, a thing, apparel, whatever, many of these are apparel companies. You make these lines of product, you need to sell them. And if you put it up for sale at whatever your price is, and they're not selling, what are your levers to try and sell? They go on sale. I think this is going to be very interesting going forward to see what other companies this is going to affect, what other areas this is potentially going to affect, and how it affects the economy just more so overall. A lot of growing pains and a lot of coming back to reality after pandemic boom. Finding the flooring, right? What's the new normal? That's what this feels a lot like. What's the new normal post-pandemic life?